Hello and welcome to. Oops, Tony, you are. Yeah, okay, hold on. Apologies, we are coming. This is because I will bring Tony in right now. Just a second. Tony has disappeared for a minute. Yeah, but I think nobody else can hear us, see us until I bring. Yeah, there you go, Tony. You are in. Hi, hi, Tony.
Okay, okay.
So
Good to see
let's.
you.
Sorry, you continue, please.
I said good to see you finally.
Good to see you actually. My name is Dr. KK. I'm Innovation Officer at Trinca and Inago, and this is PubShorts episode 43. She blinded me with science. She blinded us with science so much that Tony had disappeared. Hi, Tony.
I man, yes, an important, a good title. I know it's a serious title. Do you know what the "She Blinded Me with Science" reference comes from? Which song?
Yes,
Which artist?
the Thomas Dolby one. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
aware of it, but
And
I'm not too familiar with the song. Yeah, go on, please.
I had some. There's an '80s classic, sort of really super produced pop, electronic pop from the '80s. I had several of his albums, which I no longer have. Yeah, but no, great pop.
Hmm. So, Tony, introduce yourself and the show and the brands and the usual stuff.
The usual stuff. Yes, I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm Vice President for Partnerships here in Argo, and I look after our relationships with publishers, but I also get involved with research societies, research organisations, and some universities in terms of how they're using some language services such as ours. This is PubShorts, which is a regular, I'd say weekly, probably more than weekly at the moment, episodic podcast where we talk about aspects relating to research and research culture and research technology or technology that impacts on research, I should
Yeah.
say. Um, and if you're interested in finding some of these videos, this is episode 43, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
The first 42 episodes are available, as will this one be, on our YouTube channel. So please like, click, and share, and you can see all 42 episodes there. And it's also available on LinkedIn.
Right, right. And quickly, could you please explain why we have titled the episode such?
Well, yes. There are many people who should be recognised for services to research publishing, I should say. And Elizabeth Bick is one of those people. Elizabeth is and I will talk about in a few moments, is an award-winning publisher. So I think a scientist in her own right, and she's been really, really instrumental in sort of helping to identify image manipulation within
Right.
search publishing. I
Yeah.
think the work that she's done is so important.
As you rightly
And
suggested,
she's blinded everyone with her brilliance.
yeah, as well as with the evidence that she provides in terms of research integrity issues. But this episode is all about research integrity. At least the theme is research integrity. So I'm going to start the first story that we start with from Retraction Watch. Not very surprising that we start with a Retraction Watch story. It is titled "Springer Nature Retracted 2,923 papers last year." So this is part of the transparency efforts and research integrity effort from Springer Nature. Now, some of the interesting numbers are that 61.5% of the articles were published before January 2023. So basically 2022 until 2022. And 41% approximately is for content published after 2023 were for open access articles. So, I mean, in the sense that, you see more research integrity issues in open access. And environmental science and pollution research are the couple of journals that seem to lead in terms of these numbers. So, apart from obviously the numbers that I read out, Tony, anything catches your eye, especially maybe the open access related point?
Well, the two things. It surprises me that there aren't. Thing is, first of all, I'm delighted if a publisher identifies a
Mm.
paper that requires retraction and it's been verified, then it's withdrawn. I think that is a very positive thing.
Yes.
It adds trust and confidence in what publisher does. I think what surprises me is that so many papers seem to slip through the peer review net. So my question is, so what's happening to the peer review process in
Mm.
some of these subject areas?
Right.
I'm sure it's been done with integrity and with in good faith, but something's clearly not right. Not just in this particular publisher, just generally, that
Mm-hmm.
so many papers will be retracted in this way. And I know it's still a tiny proportion of the total
Mm.
number of papers they publish, but it's yeah, concerning that. I'm sure they've got measures going on in the background to reflect that.
Yeah, and one thought that I had is that because of the increasing tendency to associate research integrity issues and retractions with open access, which sort of goes hand in hand with preprint servers and publishing, maybe there is room for some sort of a screening, automated screening, so that
Oh,
we can.
absolutely, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there are tools. We've been developing tools, as you know, KK, which will help publishers, will help anybody publishing or disseminating research content
Right.
to screen content quickly, cost effectively, and help them and help the authors to help themselves. And just making sure that the content is as rigorous as possible.
Excellent, Tony. And we are ready to talk about the story again from Retraction Watch, which based on which we have titled the episode "She Blinded Me with Science" or "Us with Science." So this is an announcement regarding the Elizabeth Big Science Integrity Fund, obviously from Retraction Watch. So as Tony explained, Elizabeth Big is a well-known science integrity advocate. Tony, you may even have met her and have had a conversation or two.
Now I see her picture. I'm sure I've met her, or maybe I've seen her speak, and she looks
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah. So she is known for her work in exposing image manipulation and data manipulation, which Tony already mentioned image manipulation and or data manipulation as well in scientific research to uphold ethical standards. And this fund aims to support scientific integrity efforts, and it will provide resources for investigations and training. And Retraction Watch has offered to provide administrative support, and these funds are tax deductible, so it's a wonderful initiative. I'm so happy, and I'm so happy to see women in science and in research integrity being high focus highlighted and
Yeah,
given the right recognition. Anything
yeah.
else that?
Image manipulation is such a hot topic at the moment. I know we've recently launched a service that helps publishers to identify image manipulation in any given paper. We're working with several of the leading um, um, tools that helps identify that, to do sort of human screening over and above what the tools detect. So if the tool detects something, then we'll come in and we'll just clarify it.
Yeah, and we also have to mention that in terms we are very passionate about research integrity and to prevent research integrity, and we have a product suite
Oh,
called
we're,
Inago.
we're, we're, we're very keen in preventing research integrity
Okay.
uh, manipulation.
Yes, yes. If I misspoke, I meant that. And what I meant is that we have a product suite called the Inago Reports, which has checks which will help improve or at least flag research integrity concerns. And many among our organization volunteered with for communities like the SSP to participate in developing solutions and infrastructure. Right, Tony?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, STM in particular, with the Research Integrity Hub, for example,
Yeah.
it does some great things in terms of helping publishers to identify when there's been abuse in some way.
Right. Right. All right, moving on to the next story. It is an editorial from Science titled "Breaking the Silence," which was the best other title candidate that I had, which I would have to go back to my Depeche Mode, fanboy state to bring in the right reference. But anyway, this is about this.
And science did it for you.
Yes, and this editorial is about the importance of transparency in scientific communication. So it focuses on how scientists, Tony, or researchers should respond when their research integrity is questioned. So many scientists, as I think we've talked about in a couple of episodes before of PubShorts, that we tend to have the anticipatory compliance, obedience, and sort of a thing, and we tend to self police and self moral check and stuff. So staying silent, as per the article, can harm the public trust and a scientist's reputation. And there are social media platforms and other platforms where scientists should speak. So where I mean, this is one stance, but at the same time, scientists work for universities or institutions which may not agree with this stance. So, what are your thoughts? I mean, there is obviously this double edged sword of speaking out, but do you think scientists should speak out more often on
Oh,
social?
absolutely. I mean, I know there are going to be cases where there's been, obvious abuse, or there's been obviously fraudulent activities going on, and those things are difficult to support. But, there are also examples where honest research has been has taken place, and maybe there's been an error in the
Mm-hmm.
research. It hasn't been detected until after a paper is published. And I think then, the author has every right to say, to put their position and what they can do to rectify it, or what they've done to rectify it, perhaps.
Right.
So I think, I don't think the author should stay silent,
Mm-hmm.
because it creates a bigger problem for them and potentially for their institution. But I think at the end of the day, it's a personal choice.
Yeah, I mean, science states that it offers tips for authors within the journal itself, I think. So that there are ways other than social media where you can express maybe editorial, maybe opinion pieces, or
What do you
maybe
think?
I think social media is not the only place. Even though social media has become such an important part in terms of the research landscape, if you make a TikTok video explaining why your what is it, your research integrity, the questions that you've had do not have any basis, you would probably get more traction in the current world.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to do both, but at the same time, if scientists are not comfortable in doing, let's say, video or even social media, maybe they can write to the journal itself, at least express their
Yeah.
thoughts in
I
articles.
mean, this publish or perish kind of paradigm is still prevalent, and I'm sure papers are being produced that really shouldn't be produced, or they're being produced too quickly.
Right.
So the authors should have an opportunity to, at least to defend their position.
Yeah. Overall, I think we both agree that there is a role for researchers to, as in to at least answer to the concerns that there have been.
And you know what? If I'm thinking about it, if the author wants to promote themselves, as you say, there's more than just social media. One of the
Yeah.
things that we do, for example, is we help researchers, we help research institutions promote their research.
Right.
So we have a whole suite of tools that we can offer to a university or an individual researcher that, with funding, for example,
Mm-hmm.
who may want to promote their strengths or their research, or their position.
Right. One thing that once when you mentioned this, it came to my mind that science communication has in the classic sense, it has been through, let's say, published articles, let's say journal articles, etc. But there is more to science communication than just that, and what are referred to as publication extenders, which are research impact content in terms of promoting your articles. That those are very important, and especially with the advent of AI and tools that can help you communicate your science, at least that can prevent some of these concerns. At least you will see your research being talked about in the right light because you can
Yeah,
communicate it in that way. So
and you can control the message.
yes. So I think we should also state that we have AI Studio, it's the Trinka AI Studio, which offers a lot of apps which can help create content from your existing research content that can be used for research impact services. So maybe you can check it out. You can visit trinka.ai. And we are very passionate about it. We are already in conversations with several universities in Japan, South Korea, and China for
And in Europe.
offering. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Europe.
Yeah. So please, researchers, please, speak out on the right forums when your research integrity is questioned. Now, let's talk about stealth corrections, Tony. We've talked about stealth corrections, haven't we earlier? And can you define for everyone who is listening in what stealth corrections are?
Yeah, I've not seen it described as stealth corrections before, but stealth corrections is the principle of changing a piece of published research after that it's published, and but not making any, not in a way that unless you've read the article, you know the article, that it's almost invisible to the eye. So it's making changes without necessarily providing
Yes.
information about the changes that have been made.
Yes, that's perfectly right. And so this is an opinion piece, open access opinion piece on Learned Publishing, which is the journal for ALPSP. And
Rene Aquarius again.
yeah, yeah, your favorite name in the entirety of academia, I think. So, so what are stealth corrections? Just to define, as per the article, are changes made to published articles without notifying its readers. So the practice harms science integrity and transparency. And the authors of the article found about 131 articles with such corrections across various publishers. And recommendations by the authors for preventing these include public logging of changes and clear guidelines for corrections. And authors are also requesting volunteers to report any such, let's say, stealth corrections that have not yet been reported on forums or platforms like PubPeer, which is great.
Yeah,
I mean, overall, this improves research integrity as a whole, and
It
this
improves trust.
right also helps researchers who are citing such papers which might be retracted, might be stealth revised. They do not know it until it is published or notifications are sent to
Yeah.
them. This is very important in maintaining the
The,
quality of citations.
the thing that surprises me about this is that there is a well established process in place, certainly for most important scientific journals, of errata. So if there is a mistake being made, or if there's a change has been made um, after publication, the author, the editor, can publish an erratum that is then attached to the article. So it's very clear
Right.
that there's been a correction made. I find it strange that there's so many articles where changes have been made post publication where there is no record, and surely that has to change. There has to be some way of notifying the researcher. Okay, look, if you thought this was the version of record, actually,
Yes.
you should really bear in mind these 4351 facts that have come to light since publication that might affect that, and that needs to be made clear.
It's a basic practice practiced by all the reputed, I suppose, news. Like for example, something like the Guardian, or Nature, or New York Times. All the three brands that I sort of refer to, or I respect and I trust. They have, when you are reading an article, if suppose even a word has been changed, they'll mention it that it has been changed on this and this date, and they'll
Yeah,
apologize. So this is
yeah,
straightforward in the advent. I mean, the era of technology, with all the tools that are available, it should be easy, and that's what Get Full Text Research is doing by providing signals regarding errata and corrections even on
indeed.
preprint server. So these are very good things, and obviously there are tools out there which researchers can use to find out if their articles have been retracted or some changes have been made. Right? If
Yeah,
there aren't, there should be. So I'm sure you agree with this.
I do, and I do. I'm just surprised that those tools that exist aren't being used, more widely.
Yeah, and one thing is a citation quality checker is also something that again is part of the Inago report suite, where you can find out if an article is retracted. If suppose you find that in your reference list, and you can improve the quality of your reference list,
Yeah,
and using
that's important. It's important to stress that, and
yeah.
those tools are being used more and more. So we'd encourage researchers to come and use them.
Yeah. All right. Now, in another retraction watch story, it is titled Wiley Journal Retracts 26 Papers for Compromised Peer Review. So, this is again not surprising. The number is low considering all the articles that we have covered
Yeah,
from Retraction Watch so far. So, on the basis of flawed peer reviews, which is different from research integrity and everything. So, the one interesting aspect to this is that a lot of these papers have authors from Chinese universities, and some of the issues include author emails do not matching the academic institutions that they are affiliated to, and there have been similar incidents, and Wiley is investigating it. And the authors, when they were gotten in touch, they said that they weren't part of the review issues that were pointed out. So there is a problem with, in terms of the is this the right author, is the right affiliation, that to check that there is a problem, and we need to urgently solve it, right,
but
Tony?
it's clearly a problem. This whole issue of this author disambiguation, knowing the author, the publisher, the reader, to know who the author of the paper actually is. Particularly when paper mills are being used to generate content. And so I applaud Wiley's efforts in terms of identifying and retracting those papers. But we have to be so vigilant in terms of identifying the use of paper mills. I think one of the things you might know, KK, is that we recently entered a relationship with Clear Skies Technology,
Mm-hmm.
who provide a paper mill detection service. So that if a publisher or research organisation wants to check whether a piece of content has been generated, or whether a paper has been used to generate the content, they can work with us to do that.
Right. And we also have things like the AI content detection under the Trinca umbrella. So for research, we
Yeah,
are providing as many as we can. We are working on new technology as well, including potentially finding different signals for ensuring that the right author and the right affiliation is mentioned in the manuscript being submitted. Now,
but I'd say the unfortunate thing is these AI tools are getting better and better all the time at creating this content. So we just need to make sure that we're constantly developing these tools
Right.
to make them as accurate as possible.
Now, this is a very sort of a positive or a different spin. It's not a negative story. It's a suggestion. So it's a worldview article on in Nature, written by Kelly and Allen. It's titled "Move Beyond Publish or Perish by by measuring behaviors that benefit academia." So this article currently, the state of citation or bibliometrics is what is being discussed, and the author suggests that we need to go beyond just measuring contributions of in terms of citation, also mention contributions in mentorship and collaboration. So the author proposes or suggests a new index called the G plus index. Let me see if I can. Yeah, the G plus index, as mentioned here, that would measure academic impact based on generosity, collaboration, mentorship, societal impact, and good science practices. I would say it's ambitious, but so far, your thoughts, Tony? The good things should be measured and tracked.
Um, my thoughts are, okay, it's important to measure, have as many different metrics as possible to measure the research process and the researcher. These sorts of activities, though, as an employer, should happen all the time. There should be an internal measure which the university, the research organisation is already doing to see, if you're a researcher, how influential are you with your colleagues? How much impact do you have with your colleagues? How engaging are you with your colleagues? So those sorts of things internally should happen. Whether there should be an external metric or not, I think it's difficult to see how that's going to work in any sort of real way. But I'd be interested to see how that's going to develop.
Yeah,
it's so subjective.
It is. It is. I mean,
and it's also culturally subjective as well. How a researcher in one country behaves is very different from how he or she might in another.
Right. So interestingly, for mentorship, the index could measure the number of first or last author papers co-authored with early career researchers or ECRs or formal acknowledgements in publications. What do you think?
Well, again, I mean, if I think back to when I worked in physics publishing, for example, there were cases where one particular researcher, senior researcher's name would appear on every single paper.
Right.
And when we investigated that, it's because he or she was head of department and insisted that their name, because they're head of the department, appeared on the paper. I don't particularly think that was good practice, and we tried very hard to remove that. But that's not mentorship. That's not, I don't think, good practice.
No, that's one way to measure it. That's not mentorship. I think this is a suggestion in terms of improving the existing. Let's say that's a system that could be improved, and this is one way to improve it. And the other thing that the author mentioned is collaboration can be, societal impact can be calculated or assessed using collaboration scores, which could measure co-authorship across institutions, countries, and disciplines. And so some of these measures are a little ambitious, maybe early, there will be tools that could measure all of this, or at least there could be some, I would say, signals like how we have alternative metrics or alt metrics as well to measure impacts. So maybe this sort of a thing will also become more mainstream as we move forward.
Let's see.
And talking about moving forward, digital science pioneer or a leader in terms of technological innovation in the field of academic publishing announces Catalyst Grant winners rewarding. I mean, so these Catalyst Grant winners are generally those who come up with innovations for safeguarding research integrity. That's the first thing that we should know. And it has been given to two interesting, I would say, products / features / tools. One is called PostPub, the other is called Virus. So what is PostPub? It is led by Dr. Achal Agarwal. As you can see, it aims to increase awareness and accountability in research misconduct, and it plans to extend it has a retraction dashboard already. I've checked it out. It is useful, and it plans to have more improvements in the dashboard using digital sciences data, and will provide visualization. Virus by I'm not able to how would you pronounce a name, Tony?
I think it's there's a town in France called Besançon. I think it's Besançon, perhaps Besançon, because it's that cedilla under the sea. So Besançon.
Right. So Virus develops real-time visualization for questionable research papers, and it targets scientific sleuths and research integrity teams like Research Big, research, Elizabeth Big, and everybody who works volunteers for research, Retraction Watch. And so it's these are very good things. You can check it out at their respective websites. So this is PostPub. This is what it looks like, and there are different types of dashboards and very interesting infographics. And similarly, you have there's a paper for virus. There's a paper that tells you that this is how the dashboard is going to look like. I haven't. We don't have access to it
So
yet.
what does a virus product actually do? What is it? What's its purpose?
Well, if I can, let me see if I can.
Visualize systems to keep records of questionable papers being
Yeah.
investigated and their impact on scholarly measures. Okay, all right. So it's a means of tracking that.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you start with a paper, and that's what I mean. This is a difficult thing to automatic zoom. Let's just see if I can zoom. It's not very clear, but you start with a paper. Like this is the title that you are checking, and you get all the related metadata regarding it. And these are some of the journals that I think it's received citations from, if I'm not mistaken. And there are different ways of citation. This is real time. That's a main thing, and that helps research integrity. If suppose there is a lot of citations maybe coming in from a journal, it can be quickly displayed, and it's useful. All right, moving on to the last one. This is the last. It's a quick hit. This is the last quick hit that we have. So Rosenblum Award, DOI, the Trusted Digital Object Identifier for Scholarly Publishing, has been recognized as the inaugural winner of the Rosenblum Award for Scholarly Publishing Impact. I was so happy to see this. I'm a big proponent of persistent identifiers, and DOI is obviously the leader in this. So this award is a collaboration between ALPSP, AU Press, NISO, SSP, and STM, and it does not recognize individuals or organizations, and there's no monetary prize involved, but it recognizes initiatives like the DOI.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy that this there is such an award. So what are your thoughts, Tony?
Okay. I don't envy the judges for this in this particular award. There's been so many innovations that have happened over the last 25 years, let's say, that could be considered eligible. But I think if there's one thing that's really made the difference in terms of the use of research content, particularly scientific books and journals, it's the DOI. The fact that, when I started working in research publishing in the 1990s, the internet was a new thing, and there was no persistent identifier available. So what publishers were doing was creating what were called bilateral agreements. Say, if you link to me, I'll link to you, and there's lots of a wide range. So basically, the availability of the DOI, and by extension services like Crossref, meant that all publishers needed to do in order to be able to make their content usable and linkable was to pay a fee, and not a significant fee, substantial fee, in order to be able to help researchers to identify content. Do you think? I don't know when you did your PhD, KK, but when I did my sort of undergraduate degrees and my various other qualifications in the 90s, there was no Crossref, there was no DOI. Yeah. So everything was about working with libraries and getting manual links. Now that's very much a thing of the past. As long as the content is available online and it's got a persistent identifier, you can find it.
Yeah, so I haven't done a PhD, even though I would have loved to do it. I've had once ambitions to do it, but I did a master's degree in orthopedics, and I had to publish a thesis. And at that point in time, my research integrity, my every aspect of things that I'm now so much more, let's say, aware about, I can help people with. I was very bad at it, and it's a learning curve. I think as a researcher, you're not taught any of this, and you're just blindly following whatever you're expected to do. As a surgeon in a very busy residency course in Bombay, it's very difficult to sort of also have your attention towards academics. So that's a case.
I was going to say kudos to these organisations for recognising Rosenblum as well. He was an important figure in terms of the use of technology within scholarly publishing. And he was. We saw him regularly at major publishing conferences and events as a speaker and as a delegate.
Right, so that brings us to the end of our episode 43. She blinded me with science, which Tony wants to change to she blinded me with brilliance or evidence. We are referring to obviously Elizabeth Big. So Tony, we've the song that we are talking about.
Yeah.
This is one of the few songs where you do not have the actual record.
I had a copy, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. I did have copies of the 2 or 3 Thomas Dolby albums, but I just never played them. You know, because it was really 1 or 2 tracks I really liked, and the rest, yeah, they were good. They were really well produced, really well produced. And that was the exciting thing, is that he was really kind of state of the art production tools at the time. But they, you know, yeah, I just 40 years later don't listen to them as much as I should.
Right. So once again, I'm going to ask you the uncomfortable question. If suppose if our audience wants to know what you listen to and what you do not, and what records you have and what you don't, how can they find it?
Well, I'm not going to talk about my record collection openly, but if you want to find out more about PubShorts, or to want to contact either KK or me directly, you can find us both on LinkedIn, or you can contact me directly at tonyo@anargo.com.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. I was just saying that this episode is being live streamed on LinkedIn and not on on YouTube and not on LinkedIn, because we want to keep LinkedIn for a certain set of other things. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, and there's an entire playlist of all the 42 episodes, and this will be added to it very soon. And you can go through the last 4 months of research, academia, publishing, AI related stories with some contextualization by Tony and I. And let us know if you like what we are discussing, or if you have any thoughts on what we should cover. And we always take your feedback seriously, and we've obviously taken all the feedback that we've received so far well, and we'll continue to aspire to sort of meet the demands that of our audience, right, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to your suggestions, and thank you for the suggestions so far.
Right. So until the next episode, which will be very soon, I believe, Tony, this is Dr. KK signing off on behalf of Tony, as well as the rest of the team that helps us create such content and deliver it to you. This is Dr. KK signing off for PubShorts. We will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.